Hey, welcome back. It's Laura at Hyperstamper. I have a really big dog-themed junk journal today, and I mean big. This one is 8 by 10.5. That's like way up there in some of the largest junk journals I've ever made. And I chose this plate, which is an original 1899 plate. It came out of the book I did last week, the junk journal. I believe it's called Storytime Favorites. And it's just beautiful. And it's got this little girl here with the St. Bernard. And the St. Bernard, of course, is the dog of rescue and bravery. And she's decorating her dog with these little roses. And you will actually, if you were to Google this image, you would see many variations of little girls and St. Bernards. It was just a very, very popular thing in the late 1800s, early 1900s. And up here I have a vintage dog tag. Isn't that fun? Just hanging from the side there. And this is real antique lace here, probably from, gosh, 1920s, 1930s, handmade. And then I've got some trim here and some vintage applique down here. And I've added this old fabric here to the book because the book was just not attractive, but it was a vintage book and it was nice and big, so it is now the home. So inside here I've got this 1923 page from a children's book, and it's got a dachshund, and I love it, dachshund with all the little pixies there. Look how sweet. And of course they're wiener dogs, and wiener dogs are hot dogs, and hence the Oscar Mayer wiener dog. And then over here I've got a vintage page. We've got the huskies pulling the dog sled there. And of course everything in here, if you follow me, you know, I'm gonna say it again, every single page is not only authentic, antique, and vintage ephemera, it is dog themed. And you'll see why in a second. And if you have the time, follow me to the end because there's a lot of really cool pieces at the back. So we've got this 1920s piece here. Dog, it's almost like Find the Dog. Sometimes they're kind of hidden. This beautiful little dog here and her pups. This is a vintage, authentic vintage wrapping paper with classic poodles on it, right? Love, love, love the poodles with the umbrella. Here's also a 1930s children's book page. A fella here dancing with the dog. Now this is really cool. And this came out of, I brought it to show you, this came out of this vintage pattern here, Simplicity of the Stuffed Animals. And this is the complete dog pattern. So you can have a lot of fun putting it together, matching the pieces like a puzzle. Look at the little dog in his little ear. Look how cute. So yeah, I just thought that was precious. I'm keeping the packing, or the package for it to make a cover of a journal. This is from Sunday Reading for the Young, also from 1890s. They have rescued a dog rather than the dog rescuing them. And that is also in Switzerland. So that's pretty cool, which is sort of famous for where St. Bernards got their legacy. And here is another St. Bernard. There was quite a fascination with St. Bernards in the late 1800s, which is where this plate is from. And this one here is a St. Bernard who saved this little kitten here, and the other dogs are trying to get the kitten. This is from a 1920s children's book page. Some child over the last 100 years has colored that in. And this is from the children's book On Cherry Street, which I've made into junk journals in the past. There's a little dog chasing these two cuties to school. That is also from the 1890s there. It was too brittle to make into a pocket. And that is a 1933 page there. And look at this great postcard. How beautiful is this? This is from the between 1910 and 1920. How cute are they? Just adorable. And then this is a vintage page here. And we've got which is probably a wolf, but in the dog family, I'm going to say. And here is an early 1900s children's book page, and we've got the dog there, little Gustava. Now, I wonder if you can guess why this is in here. Sunday, August the 26th, and it came from this yearbook, which is a diary here. And I picked that date because it is International Dog Day this year. August 26th, I kid you not, there's an International Dog Day. I checked it, so that is in there now. And then this is one of these fabulous vintage edu cards. And this one is D for dog. I love it. Now, here's a recipe book page. Can you guess why this recipe book page is in a dog-themed junk journal? best ham dogs, which we now call hot dogs, or they call them Frankfurters, Franks. I just love it. So got to have that in there. And then of course, Nutty Pups. It's just so perfect. This is from the early 1900s here. A little dog there on guard with his rifle. Now, let me see if you can figure out, see, why is this in here? This is from 1896. It's a stereoscope. And that would have been like the original Viewmaster. So it would have been 3D if you looked at it through the scope. And there it is, a little dog. And there, isn't that wonderful? Like I said, I'll find any excuse to get things into a themed journal, as long as it's, you know, as long as it's on the same lines. Look at this little toy poodle. How cute is that? So that's a little, Lady Jane was a doll, and that's her little poodle. Isn't that fun? And then this vintage children's book page here has a little dog chasing them around the corner. These I fussy cut out of that vintage wrapping paper. I think that's kind of cool. This page here is from 1850, so it's nice and thick. Now, why is this in a dog journal? Well, there was a farmer who had a dog, and Bingo was his name-o. B-I-N-G-O. And Bingo was his name-o. That's right. I gotta get bingo cards in every journal, right? This, of course, is just a wonderful chatterbox page. And that one is from the 30s. And this here is from this wonderful vintage book called Tiny and Winkle Toes. Look at these beautiful little illustrations here. So this is a double one here. Look at the little pup looking up at the bird, and here. Adorable, right? And then this is another real treasure. This is from the 1940s, and I've used a lot of these patterns in my junk journals, but this one here, this is a whole package full of dogs and cat and kitten. Oh, look, kitten patterns. Now, I have long since used up the puppy ones, but when I looked in here, there's still a little kitten hiding in there. So there's a kitten and some flowers. So you can have a lot of fun with that. And I left it in its envelope package so that you could even reuse that if you were the owner of this journal. Early 1900s dog book page, and this is from a different children's book page. I want to say it's from Tiny Tots, and another Saint Bernard and a little girl. That is not from this book. It is, or that book. It's from another book later on. Isn't that beautiful? It's pretty cool. This is just a little antique paper flip card. And then down here is a 1956 My Book House page. And of course, we've got the little dog there coming to his master, and a cat. And this is from 1925. What shall we choose for pets? His master's umbrella. Aww. And then we've got some terriers, a collie. Aren't these wonderful? Now this is a Swiss stamp here, and well, vintage, 1938. And because Switzerland is where St. Bernards were made famous. I know it's a stretch, but I got to get stamps in there too, right? Here's a vintage children's book page, a little dog that looks a lot like this little guy here, and this little cat, which looks a lot like this one. Duking it out. And this is a vintage book. I just couldn't make it nice enough for a junk journal, so I just made it into a page for this journal here, and it's called Skippy and Others, about this little dog named Skippy. And yeah, I just love it. I love it so much. Look at that. So you can have fun with that. And then this came from another wonderful little children's book about a little boy who's trying to find his birthday present, and he finds out that at the end of the day it was a puppy. This I made just as a nice cluster. You can do anything with. You can even add paper to the back and journal, but it's got, there it is, find the dog, there and there. Isn't that great? And then here, this I've been holding on to because it is, look how cute that is. Look at, I know dogs that look like this. So this is a vintage birthday card, and it's actually older than you would think. It is actually from the 1940s. But look at the look at this. It's a great spot for journaling or playing. Look at front and back. They just did everything right back then with all the gold. Can you see that? It's just exquisite. This would have been a card that somebody would have gone crazy for getting, but I think it's perfect for this journal. There is so much in this journal. I'm sorry, it just keeps going and going. This is from a vintage Lassie book. children's book page from the 30s. This one is also from the 30s. Got the little dog here and here. Find the dog, he's hiding. And then this one is, oh, I put that on there so I wouldn't forget because sometimes I get the dates mixed up. This one is from 1882. Look at that. That's the oldest one I have. Look how sweet. I don't even know what kind of dog that is. Another fussy cut on a vintage index card. And this is a vintage playing card with a dog on there as well. And then I have a dictionary page with a dog. And I have this is from another book. Same story, but this one's from the early 1900s, as you can see. There we go. The same, the duel. So it's a popular story. And then this one here, again, find the dog. He's down at the bottom here, but what a fun page, right? From this vintage children's book. Now these here are from a 1930s French dictionary, and we have this one here, which means a large snouted dog, I believe. And then this one here, isn't that cute? So I just thought those were fun, and you can cluster with them, but I left them whole so that if somebody wanted to tear it up and use it, they could in their own style. This is another vintage Lassie book page, and this was a dedication page, A Man Who Knows a Dog. Isn't that great? Or that's who wrote that book, not dedication page, Laura, stop it. And at the very end here, I put this book cover. I couldn't use it because the child scribbled pen. I can usually get rid of pencil, but not pen. So I made it into a pocket. And this is from 1927, my book house. And it was very brittle, so I put antique paper on the back, but look at the dog there made out of a cookie. So I hope you love this one as much as I loved making it. It's at my Etsy shop, hyperstamper.etsy.com. Bye for now.